See, having storage is very important, especially when you're choosing between SSDs and HDDs. So most of you are aware about SSDs, the difference between SSDs and HDDs, or solid state drives and hard disk drives. What do I want to point out? So there's a particular brand that has been causing a lot of chaos, especially late 2022, 2023, 2024, last year, and even right now this year, is the SanDisk SSD that has been causing a lot of issues. That is SanDisk Extreme Portable SSD E61, SanDisk Extreme Pro Portable SSD E81, and some Western Digital My Passport SSDs that has been causing a number of failures, especially when people who are dealing with photography, videography, content creators, or people who want some kind of fast SSD based on what they have been promised. So I was just checking on a number of people still in 2026 who have complained, the issue still exists on the SSDs failing. Or if they mount their SSDs on, let's say, PCX or PCY, the data is still there, but you find that the SSD cannot be read, even if they change the cable. Why is that happening? So I'd like you guys to understand something about SSDs. You see, SSDs, or solid state drives, the structure of it is that it stores data using NAND flash memory chips. It has no moving parts. So in short, SSD do not have moving parts like their HDD's counterpart. So I like showing this HDD because it's a classic example of understanding what was and what is and will continue being part of our lives, hard disk drives. So this one is a 2.5-inch SATA HDD. So this one is for a laptop. So based on its size and form factor, it's one that was in my old laptop. The laptop behind me, it used to have this. So this one is a 500 GB HDD. So this one has moving parts, and you find some of those moving parts because of the reads and writes. You find that it cannot cannot store data in ways that SSD does using its NAND flash technology. So the difference is this one has moving parts while the SSD has no moving parts. Hence, the SSD is able to store data or read and write data fast, especially if you are booting Windows, if you are launching programs, if you are moving data. There's a whole difference between the HDDs and the SSDs. So guys, you need to understand this. The idea about SSD is data is stored in electric charges inside cells, and there is a controller that manages the reading and writing and error correction. You see, when you delete a file, let's say an image file or a movie file or a picture, it doesn't erase instantly. It doesn't do that. So it marks them as free, and it uses something called TRIM system. So I'll explain later what TRIM means. So each cell has a limited lifespan, that is write cycle. You see, it's electronic. So with time, those cells wear out. They can't do the writings. So if one chip or controller fails, you lose everything instantly. You see the difference between the SSDs and unlike HDDs. So let me show you really well so that people can see this is a HDD. You see, HDD failure is often sudden, not gradual. You see, HDDs start failing gradually. You start noticing, slowly it starts to fail. But if an SSD fails, it's terrible because it can, some of those cells it's hard to recover data as compared to chances like when using HDDs. So the other thing I need you to understand about some of those failures people are experiencing using the SanDisk, the series that I've mentioned, is that they are basically internal SSD plus USB controller in a small case, and they are powered by USB. You see, this one, it does not have direct access to the motherboard like the way the NVMe or the SATA type of SSDs, which you mount directly on the motherboard. So this is the difference. This one, you are using a USB cable, hence some chances of failure can likely occur as compared to what I mentioned about direct on motherboard. This is why you find that the SSDs, they build heat quickly, especially large file transfers, because number one, remember, they are extremely fast. They do a data rate of about 2000 to 4000 megabytes per second, and they are shock resistant with no moving parts. So when they are transferring such high data with high speeds, especially large files, let's say videos, photos, movies, or anything you're transferring, heat builds up quickly, and the design is that it's tiny and compact design, so there is poor heat dissipation. And then coupled with an extra USB bridge, so there are more failure points. This is why you find many issues crop up, like for instance, sudden disconnects. The drive is not mounting if you are mounting in a, inserting in, like PCX, PCY, PCZ, and that's the reason as to why. Some of those three reasons I've mentioned. And then based on some of the reports are ongoing, failures are still happening in Extreme and Extreme Pro, E61 and E81. So firmware that was released, like I think it was around 2023, it did not solve anything. So some recovery experts, those guys who do data recovery or data, backup and stuff like those, they reported that there are weaker solder joint. That's one of the reasons. There is heat stress damage and the design limitation of the PCB. So even worse, drives can just disappear mid-use without any warning. You're using it and then suddenly it's disconnected. So real world reports show that file system is suddenly gone, drive shows up but is unreadable and sometimes possible to recover. So what next, guys? So we ask ourselves, what next? I'd advise people who are looking for long-term storage to consider the Western Digital. Remember, SanDisk is under Western Digital. You can still consider the hard disk drives of 2 to 4 TB or 8 TB if you can be able to manage for now, because the problem is still persisting. You don't want to be in a situation where you are either copying files or moving files, or either creating something and then your SSD fails. So not to alarm you, not to say that all SSDs are bad, but please consider using external hard drives for now because they are safer and they store long term because they don't have cells that wear out. Remember, as long as you keep it in a good condition, including places that are not humid and not too much heat and not much magnetic interference, HDDs can last long as compared to SSDs. So SSDs, you use them if you are on the go, like you are transferring the files today, tomorrow you're transferring them somewhere else, or within the 6 months you're transferring files, and not longer than either 1 or 2 or more years, depending on the design. Those of you who intend to buy those SSDs, please bear that in mind, because the design is not like that one which is placed on the motherboard of your laptop or the desktop variants. If you have questions, if you guys have come across the issue about SSD failures, especially external SSDs failing, please feel free to comment down below. You can text me, you can call me, WhatsApp me. My number is right here below on the video. And if you need some services or some kind of stuff that you need to be done, please feel free to comment. And for any issue you guys you have, feel free to call me. We talk, we discuss. Thank you guys. See you soon. Bye bye.